Do you ever feel like life is already decided for you, or like there's a script you didn't agree to, but somehow you know your lines? Or do you ever notice this in others? Like you are Truman Burbank, played by Jim Carrey in The Truman Show? Well, this is conditioning. This is warfare. The system shapes your mind before your brain is even fully developed. A system is a structure that controls human behavior. The system tells you what matters, how to act, what success looks like, and what happens if you do not follow the rules. School, for instance, teaches you to follow instructions, not question them. Work rewards productivity over well-being. Social spaces reward the comfort of conformity more than truth. People are easier to control when they are a cookie cutter and fit into boxes perfectly. Programming, on the other hand, is what happens when the outside structure becomes your inner voice. You don't have to think for yourself. The system does it for you. It shows up as feeling guilty for resting because you have been taught you have to work hard to get anywhere. It's thinking you are behind because others look further ahead. It's needing validation to trust yourself because independent thinking gets shamed. It's also being afraid to take up space. There are people deeply invested in the system, even when they call out parts of it. For example, they might say anyone who criticizes the medical industrial complex is dangerous. If you are against certain medical interventions because you or someone you love experienced harm, even death, you are still labeled dangerous for going against what they trust. If you homeschool your kids, like actually homeschool them, and still give them community through co-ops, sports, volunteering, social spaces, you are seen as dangerous because you are stepping outside the system that trains people for a specific hierarchy. And then there are people like Cheyenne Bryant, who are labeled dangerous because although she has a doctorate in counseling psychology and is academically valid in calling herself a psychology expert, she isn't a licensed psychologist. The arguments against her are everywhere. That her school lost accreditation, even though it was accredited at the time. That she's diagnosing people. That she's crossing into grief work. And I have seen people make false comparisons like, would you go to a surgeon without credentials? But that's not the same. There is no gray area with surgeons. You either are a surgeon or you are not. Healing, on the other hand, is largely abstract. Removing or replacing body parts is not. If licensure were only about ethics, then why are master's and bachelor's level professionals allowed in the field? Licensure is also about accountability, protecting people from harm, and yes, gatekeeping. And that is why those at lower levels can practice under supervision. But that still raises the question, who created the standards and why? Standards are necessary, but even with systems that have standards, corruption is common. Higher education itself is elitist. Not everyone can afford it. And those who can are often told what to think and how to operate. Some of that is useful and some of it is not. So back to Cheyenne Bryant. Those who say she can call herself a psychology expert without being licensed are correct. Those who are concerned she may be crossing certain lines have a point too. But these types often take it too far which isn't uncommon in professional spaces. At the end of the day, the only word that is truly protected is psychologist. Everything else, not so much. Mental health was originally rooted in philosophy, and honestly, some of it should have stayed that way. Mental health doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has multiple causes, including at times the very medications prescribed to treat it. Treating mental health strictly as a science can miss the human element. It can turn people into problems to be managed instead of humans to be healed. Meanwhile, the system ignores that the body itself is a system, that mind, body, and spirit are connected, and it often denies spirit altogether. But healing comes from spirit, yeah, and those who are called to heal carry that gift. Meanwhile, many of the mental health struggles we see are reinforced by the same systems meant to address them. But we will get deeper into that when we talk about psychological warfare in another video. The systems of the world don't just stay in your head, they live in your body. People who strongly uphold systems can develop a kind of superiority complex. It makes sense. If you believe in a structure that defines reality, you start to feel like you are on the right side of it. But the reality is, those upholding the system are still operating within it. There are always higher levels of control. People at the top set the tone, and those beneath them enforce it. A lot of people criticize religion and say religious people are controlled. But many of the systems they trust, higher education, medicine, have roots in religious institutions. And actually, the Catholic Church delivers more non-state healthcare services than any other organization worldwide. Control shows up everywhere. Left or right politically, there is influence. Trust the science, even though the science evolves and can be shaped by funding and policy. Calling alternative medicine dangerous while fully trusting conventional systems. Again, influence. Control affects the nervous system. Over time, it moves from your thoughts into your body. It shows up as constant tension, restlessness when you try to slow down, exhaustion that seems to not go away, and also the feeling that you always have to keep up. That is your nervous system adapting to ongoing pressure. You can't shift or change what you can't see. The way so many people are is not genuinely how they would be otherwise. You may think this is just life, just the way things are. This is just who we are. The truth is that behavior is shaped, and the system knows that. You are behaving the exact way the system wants you to if you have not unplugged from the system. And so I would like to make this a series. And in this series, I'd like to break down this whole thing into layers. The system, or what shapes the environment, the narrative, or what you were told about it, and the conditioning, or how it shows up in your body and in your behavior. Because whoever controls the mind or behavior controls everything.